Be using them to make this lovely card here, and I've made this using the Chapter 1 Spring Stems die, and I love this die because it is just one of those really organic looking, realistic looking flower silhouette dies that I think work well in loads of different types of designs. Just watch out for the cat. You can film him down there, he's attacking my camera woman's feet. Stop it, Wally. He's not listening to me. Okay, so we're going to go over some of my favourite inking techniques now. We'll do this one here first. So I've taken a piece of white card here for my card front, and I've used some of our stencil film here. So that's going to create this border. It's going to act as a mask there. So I'm going to. You don't need to measure it out as long as it's a smaller area than the length of the flowers, the die cut pieces, then that'll be fine. I've used a little bit of readjustable spray mount here, so that just gives it the kind of stickiness of a post-it note on there, which is great because then when we tear it off, it's not going to rip the paper, but then it's going to stay in that position while we're inking. So I'm going to use my multi-tool here. This is the perfect thing to ink with. It's just very ergonomic. You hold it like a pen, which just feels so natural. And you can see what you're doing with it, you know, rather than having to hold it over and go like this. It's just, you've got a better wrist action there that you can work with. So it's just a fantastic tool, this, for inking with. So I'm going to do a blend. I'm going to go with this kind of purpley colour. And then I'm going to blend up to the brighter yellow. Now I'm using the oxides for this. So the difference between the oxides and just the normal distress ink are that the oxides have more opacity to them. So with the distress inks, you can always see through them. They're fantastic for doing, you know, inking on a white background or a light background. But with the oxides, because they've got that extra opacity, it means that you can also ink on a dark background because it shows up. So you've got the kind of the benefit of it having the pigment with the fact that it is water reactive. And we'll come to that in a little bit. The water reactiveness is the best thing about these dye inks, just because, you know, all you need is a spray bottle of water and you can create lots of different effects there. So I've gone about halfway up. Just going to take that off, and I'm going to put on my yellow ink pad here, and I'm going to come down from the top here. Now when you're deciding on colours, it's a good idea to just have a think about what the colour is going to look like. If you're using two different colours, you got to think about that middle colour there and what it's going to look like, because, you know, some of the colours might blend better than others. If you have a nice yellow and a blue, it's going to be green in the middle, and that might be what you're going for. So here we've got more of a kind of pinky orangey colour in the middle, and I just think that looks lovely. There we are. So I'll just carry on blending it out a little bit in the middle there to get a smoother blend. That's great. I love these colours together, especially with the flowers over them, and the fact that I've cut them in black gives a lot of impact. Kind of looks like a silhouette, maybe a kind of sunrise in the background. I'm going to leave this like this for now, and I'm just going to show you how well they work with the water. So this is just water in a spray bottle. All I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a spritz. So here we're looking for some big blobs and some little blobs there, and then you can either wait for this to air dry. That gives one effect. You can use our heat tool to dry it. That gives a slightly different effect. But I am going to blot it with just a piece of tissue here. Okay, you can see how that has just lifted off with the water, and that's the beauty of these dye inks. It's just, you know, you can use them without water if you want, but you can manipulate it with water to cause lots of different types of effects here. Okay, now I'm going to take my mask off. There we go. You can see it has blotted over the bottom there. Maybe I didn't put this down well enough. I could have maybe sprayed a bit more of the spray mount on it just to make sure that no ink went on the bottom, but I'm okay with that for now. And you can see that the top is a really crisp edge, and just that effect on its own is fantastic. So now I'm going to use my Express machine today to die cut these elements from the spring stems die set here. And I've got nice new plates, which is always good. I'll take this one. I'm going to use these two as well. I think the machine is actually big enough for me to die cut all three of these. That's great. Okay, and then I love this machine. You just hold the button and it goes through. No nonsense. Lovely. Ooh, okay. So this is where my tweezers, the fine tip tweezers, are going to come in handy. Just handling these thinner dies. It's going to be a bit easier. And I've got my Express glue to hand. So I'm going to have a look at which way I've arranged them. On this one, I decided to go in that order. It might look nice in a different order. I'll have a bit of a play. There we are. Think I might try it this way around. And I'm going to position these just a bit lower so that I can fit my sentiment on the top there. And it doesn't matter if they go over the bottom because I am going to just slice that bottom bit off anyway. Express glue. There we are. This Express glue is great for these tiny dies because you can control it so easily with the bottle and the sort of fine tip applicator nozzle, so that you're not putting loads on, and then if you do put too much on, you end up pushing it down and then all the glue splodges out the edge, which is not what you want. So I will have it like so. And then we have this one here. And you don't need to go right up to the edges with this. Oh, that's a bit too much. I'll get rid of that with my finger. A little bit on my paper there. That's going to go down here. And finally, this one here. Our adhesive sheets are actually a good idea for something like this, like one of these smaller dies, because you stick the adhesive sheet on the bottom and then you die cut it, and then there's no need to use a glue at all. It's already, you just peel off the bottom and then it sticks. So that's a handy idea if anyone has any of those available. Right, I've stuck these down and I've just left space here for my sentiment, which is a Chapter 2 die from the Detailed Tropics, and it just says Memories. So I'll stick that down now. Another good thing about these dye inks is that you can use them as stamps. I mean, I've chosen to use our Sizzix ink here just because I want a really nice, clean, dark stamp. But when it comes to using, especially using the oxides, which give a better stamp than the distress inks, you can use them as a stamp, and I'll show you that in a minute as well. So I'm just going to use some of my scissors. I'm just going to trim off these little bottom bits here because we don't want them, and then we'll just have them as part of the bottom card. So they're coming up from the bottom there, and there's my card front. So all I'm going to do, use some of my foam tape just have that sentiment stand out a bit. And then I'm getting very good at peeling these off on command. And then I'm going to stick it this way, right in the middle, and that just creates a nice border, which adds a little bit of sophistication to the make. Okay, so there is my card, and all I've used there, I've used these oxide inks here. I could have used distress inks because I am inking on a white background, but I chose oxides today. I'm just going to show you what it looks like when you try and ink on a darker background with normal distress ink. So I'll show you the difference now. This is the same as this colour, but this is an oxide and this is a distress ink here. So if I were to just drag this down, which I'll do in a sec, you can't really see that at all. I mean, I can a tiny bit, but no, there's just no effect there at all. And you can see that there is ink on the pad there. But when I use my oxides, I can get a really nice effect. Now this, before I show you the dragging technique with the oxides, I'm going to show you another one of my favourite. Just dropped my card there, but it's fine. I'm going to show you another one of these fantastic techniques here. So I am going to use distressing, and I'm going to use my oxides with this one. I'm just going to apply it straight to this craft mat. Again, love the fact that it's water soluble. I'm going to give it a few sprays there. And then you can see here, if you sort of zoom in there, we've got some bigger blobs, some little blobs, and the paper will take these on really nicely, especially on sort of lighter paper here. So you can see there, that was one of the areas of the sort of denser dots. I might give it another spray for some bigger blobs of water here. And I'm just holding it over and tapping it, and I'm making it so that the paper takes on that colour. And I'm going to quickly dry it with my heat tool. And as it dries, it just makes a really cool effect there. A nice speckled effect. So that's dry enough for now. And I'm going to carry on the same thing with a different colour. So I'm going to take this off. Another great thing about the inks, working with them, is that you can, get them on the table. I'll show you, you get ink on the table there like that. It just comes off with a little spray of water, so it's less mess. Okay, so I'm going to choose maybe the same sort of colour theme here. Might choose 3. I've added a bit of the yellow oxide to there. Again, a few sprays. I've mixed that in. I'm going to dry it. And then one more colour. So I'm just going to use a blue for this one, just for the sake of it. There we go. Oh, it's more like it's a lilac colour there. So it's still in keeping with this nice colour palette. And the same area, again, I'm just going to do a few dabs of this colour here. I don't want it to be too overbearing. Okay. And I'll dry this. Now, because of the different amounts of sort of styles that are in it, these different effects here where we have it really detailed blobs, and then we've got these big, nice sort of watery blobs here. You can use it. So I've taken, if I take the apertures of the die cuttings that I made earlier, and if I just hold it over here, you can find a nice area where it just comes through there, and you can see that's another idea, and it's something that I've used on my next technique here. So I've done that on this here, and I used the opaque oxide ink to drag across here to create that effect there. So I've used the aperture, gone over this technique that I've used here. So this dyed area using the blotting, and then I've used the aperture, just gone over, found a nice place where it all looks lovely, and then stuck it on, and then I've just used a dragging technique, and I'll show you that now. I'm going to use a different colour this time. This sort of greyish colour. All I did, I took the actual ink pad and just dragged it along there. And with this effect, it picks up bits of the pad, but then it leaves some bits, so it gives a distressed look there, which is great for a mixed media sort of technique. Just to show you the way they stamp, I've got a little stamp here, just a generic calligraphy style stamp. I'm just going to add some yellow pigment onto that. Just make sure the thing's covered. Then I might just put a bit of yellow pigment on, and you can see that that's worked as a stamp there. So I might do that whole thing, and just, I've gone a bit mad with the colours here, but you can be a bit more selective in your process. But I think that actually looks quite nice. And that will make a lovely bookmark. You just have to leave it long enough for the ink to settle, and it will, so that it doesn't stain the pages in your book. But look at that. And I've used that effect here on a card front that I will be using for my upcoming blog. So yeah, that's just another lovely inking technique. So we've covered the blotting, the dragging, and the blending and spraying technique for this make here. And yeah, that's all I've got to talk about today. So I hope you've really enjoyed the video. I hope you're keeping safe, and yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.